request mapping through annotations. Starting from now, we will move from old version Spring MVC to the current version Spring MVC. The main difference is configuration by annotations. So I give 2 videos, give you some basic annotation knowledge. Here, I just want to say the main reason we use annotation type configuration. 2 big advantages. First one, greatly simplify the annotation. Greatly simplify the configuration. The old way configuration pretty complicated. Yeah. Using this way, much easier than before. So that's the first big advantage. Second big advantage, more powerful. More powerful. With annotations, we can do much more than the old way. The old way. Now, old way, although we can do wiring, right? Remember, I use a word, wiring. The old way configuration, what we can do, basically wiring. Wiring components to assemble an application. That's what we can do in the old way. The new way, annotation way, not only wiring, we can still do wiring, but also more than that. Data communication. Through annotations, we can do a lot of data communication things, work. That's very powerful. The old way, we cannot do data communication, right? Old way, the XML way, how can we do data communication? No way to do it. But this new way, starting from today, the first video, we will have several videos to explain the data communication details. All right, so let's start. Yeah. First, the most important annotation. Our first one, basic, most important one. It's called AtRequestMapping annotation. AtRequestMapping annotation. From the name, you can guess the meaning. HTTP request, right? So HTTP request, you have URL. How do you send HTTP request? Through some URL. Then, so your URL is divided into several pieces, right? By the slash. In your URL, you use, many slashes to, mark several different pieces. Those pieces can be mapped to different controllers, different methods in those controllers, and so on. So that's what we are going to do using this annotation. All right, so let's look at the details. First, example. Because when we look at the examples, we can see, we can guess something we are going to do. Controller method URL mapping. First, let's just look at the method URL mapping, but these methods inside a controller, inside one controller. So later we will look at, other parts. The first one, we just look at the method level mapping. All right, so here I show you several examples. The first one, look at this one, this method. It's called a view product method. Okay, the method definition details we do not need to know. Here we do the annotation. Look at this part. This piece in your URL when we do the mapping, we start from the beginning. First, you need to match the domain part, right? The server to match the domain part. Then the second part, from controller. Remember the from controller concept. From controller, you need to map something, okay? Yeah. After the from controller, then this controller, you need to map a piece, some piece after that, right? After from controller. Then you match this part, then inside this controller, then if you get this view product piece after slash, view product piece, then you get a match, so this method is called. That's the logic. Yeah. So we will see this many times, so you will understand quickly. Yeah. Next one. Yeah. Just a different method name. Now to call this method, this time we change another different mapping piece. In the whole URL, you get some piece. Yeah, you get a piece. Yeah. On next page, I will talk about from controller mapping, method mapping. So then you get a whole picture. This page, we only get the method part. Okay, method part. But the next page, we will see other main pieces. Yeah. All right. Another method, just different method, different URL piece. Okay. All using this AtRequestMapping. So simple to use. All right. Yeah. So now the question. Now we want to know what is the controller level mapping, right? Controller level mapping. Yeah. Controller level, we also use this annotation, but we put at the beginning of that controller, yeah, above the controller class name, above that, similar to the way we are using here, above the method declaration line. Yeah. Yeah. Very natural. Yeah. All right. So next page, let's look at a construction rule for controller method URL mappings. Construction rule. Yeah. Construction rule for what? For that URL path format. Yeah. All right. A hidden rule for controller method mapping. Hidden rule. Okay? Yeah. So if you do not learn this hidden rule by just looking at the URL, you may not get the exact way to do the mapping. You can only guess, but could be wrong. Your guess could be wrong. So you need to learn this hidden rule. Then you apply this hidden rule, you can understand, how the whole URL string is mapped to one particular method in some controller. Yeah. All right, so using the servlet URL mapping for the dispatcher servlet. All right, so first, this is what I call the front controller, right? Yeah. Front controller. So this is the design pattern, front controller for our Spring MVC framework. Okay, yeah, corresponds to dispatcher servlet. That part you need to map some, substrate in the URL. You need to do that. Yeah. So that's one. After that, there. One particular controller mapping. Yeah. So that mapping, yeah, so this level, okay? That level, controller mapping. That mapping, there are two ways. One, XML configuration file. Yeah. In our Hello Spring, previous part B, I explained that, okay? Yeah, show you, the history, evolution of the Spring MVC, yeah. But our main focus is this way, by an annotation. This way, yeah. All right. Then after that, then this page, the method mapping part. Method mapping part. Okay, all right. Yeah. Then all these things, look at all these parts, mapping parts, are separated by forward slashes, if not specified. Yeah, default. Yeah, because this is the best way, most convenient way, forward slashes. Yeah. Okay, yeah, if not specified. Yeah, so it looks like you have a chance to change that, but it's not good to change that, right? If you changed to your own way, not using forward slashes, for other people, it is very hard to adjust to it. Very hard to adjust to it. Okay, yeah. All right. Now, let's look at a concrete mapping way to help you understand. Dispatcher servlet. When we configure the servlet mapping URL in, remember, web.xml, we map the URL pattern to context root / That's that is one of the common ways to do it. One of the common way to do it. All right, yeah. But definitely we can map to / for example, Spring. How about that? Yeah. So we know. Think about, in one server, we may use two different frameworks. One Spring, another Struts, for example. Okay, another MVC framework, Struts. Okay, yeah. In that way, it's not good to use the / So we want to specify the framework name, /Spring. A different framework, we use a / the name of that framework. Okay, yeah. But here, if you only use Spring, no confusion, then most people like to use the simplest, just the one / way, okay, to map to your web application context root. So that's one thing, yeah. Another possibility you can think about, we also use Spring MVC framework, only one, no struts, only Spring MVC framework in our Java server. But think about, we have two web applications. We have two web applications, not just one, two. Okay? So then your dispatcher servlet, do you want to map it to, for your first web application, do you want to map web 1, for example? All right? Your second web application, do you want to map web 2? And so on, right? Yeah. So in many different situations, you have the freedom to choose different mapping string. Yeah. All right, so that's the front controller. Then controller level, next level. Next level we call a request handler, right? Request handler level, now controller level. This time we just use a string that connect to controller name or controller information. So here the store here, this is example. Suppose we have a store controller, for example, right? Store controller. So this is a special example. Okay, example. Yeah. So you map to this string. Yeah. Map to this string. Okay. Yeah. Then method level. Now the method name. Yeah. View product. Okay. View product. So you can see when you go through these three different levels, and then finally you can call the right method inside the right controller and inside the right web application also. All right, let me show you example. Yeah. So look at this one. Yeah. Suppose we want to map to this method. Yeah. From controller level going down. Yeah. So we use this. Yeah. First / from controller. Then store the controller name of this method. Controller name of this method. Then this method name. That's it. Yeah. So you can see how simple. How simple if we use the URL way, we can easily call any method in any controller we want. How simple it is. Yeah. If you go back to the old way, XML way, we can do the same thing, but we need to do a lot of work. A lot of work. Okay? Yeah. All right. So that's the first slide. Second, I want to give you a little more information. Mapping inheritance. So what's the mapping inheritance? Yeah. You need to think about sometimes one URL string could fit multiple methods based on the mapping rules. Yeah, mapping rules, hidden rules, right? Many mapping hidden rules. Based on those hidden mapping rules, one particular URL can fit multiple methods. In that situation, how to resolve the conflict? How to resolve the conflict, right? So here, from now on, we will try to understand that part. All right, yeah. For this slide, we look at the simplest case. Yeah. Then the next slide, we will, go a little deeper. Yeah. So this one, so let's look at the simplest case. Hidden rule between the controller and its method. Yeah. So this basically the same way we did in the previous slide. All right, so this is the example. Yeah. In this example, look at this. We have the controller name. And the controller level, this part, this string, identifies the controller. Yeah. So this controller, yeah. Product. Where product is matched, this product controller will be called. All right, so still the context level / one single /. All right, so now the first method /product /view product, straightforward, right? Yeah. Second /product /add to cart, straightforward, right? Yeah. So simple, so easy to understand. Yeah. The third one. Yeah. Then the next slide, I want to, show you how do we resolve the conflict if there is multiple matching cases. How to resolve the conflict. Yeah. All right. First, advantages of using, yeah. So the advantages here. So let's do some, look at the advantage first. Yeah. Advantages. With request mapping, you can do these things. Yeah. First, you no longer need complex logic branches within servlet do-get. Yeah. So usually, to send a request to different what? So different servlet JSP, we do it in do-get method using complex logic branches. So you can imagine, okay? Yeah. Or similar methods to select proper method to execute. Yeah. Yeah. Usual way, right? Yeah. So here, this annotation way simplifies that a lot. Here, we haven't talked about the data communication part. Oh, data mapping. Yeah, we can also call data mapping, right? URL mapping, data mapping. Yeah. Although data communication, that's the two-way, right? So data mapping, that's the one way. Yeah. We copy data from the URL string. We copy the data. Okay. Yeah. Then communication, we send the data back. So that's why I use the data communication. We need to send data back. Yeah. But if we only talk about data mapping, so that's the coming way. Yeah, not the going out way. Yeah. All right. Instead, requests are automatically routed to the proper controller and the method. How simple it is. Not just simple, it is very natural. Based on our experience in web programming, we have that logic in our mind, in our background, so we can easily understand the mapping way. Do not use any specific controller. So controller 1, controller 2, controller 3. Remember, the old Spring MVC, there are several different types of Spring controllers you need to use. You do not need to touch those controllers. So save you a lot of time. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Easy mappings through the various AtRequestMapping annotation attributes. All right. Here, attributes. Yeah. We haven't talked about that. Yeah. In our, previous a few slides, the attributes, remember the attributes, we use the default attributes, value. Yeah. Value equals a string, so this value can be omitted, right? So that's in the basic part. We talk about that, yeah, that attribute. But there are some more attributes in request mapping. Later we will learn some more attributes. Okay? A little more complicated, but it becomes more and more powerful. All right. Yeah. A mapped method may have any name, any number of different arguments, and one of the numerous supported return type. Yeah. So here it tells us it's pretty flexible. Yeah. So we can pretty much do as much as we want. Yeah. But that kind of detail, we will use, a sequence of videos to understand. Yeah. That kind of details. A lot of things we will understand. All right. Yeah. So here I talk about an advantage. Next, I talk about, summary a little bit. For that, resolving conflict, yeah, I mentioned that. We will look at that in the next video. Yeah, next video, we will see that. Resolving conflict, yeah. It's also pretty easy, pretty simple, yeah. All right, so the last page, summary on AtRequestMapping annotations. Yeah. So you can place this annotation tag on just a controller or on both controller class, yeah, and the methods. Yeah, we saw that. Yeah. The natural way, yeah, we can do that in a natural way. Yeah. Placing the annotation on both controller class and its methods establishes certain inheritance and the precedence rules regarding the mappings. Yeah. The preceding rule, yeah. We saw the inheritance rule in the previous slide. The precedence rule, later we will see that. Which one has higher priority? Resolving the conflict, we need to use that precedence rule. Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to put this item here. Yeah. Precedence rule. Yeah. Next video, we'll look at this precedence rule. Yeah. All right. Then, some request mapping attributes established for controller class are inherited by an additive to those established for the method. Additive. Yeah. All right. Inherit. Yeah. So the controller class, yeah. You carry that part. You take that part. Yeah. Then you add more additive to that part. Yeah. So that's the summary from our experience. Yeah. All right. The last one. Others established for the method override those established for the class. Now, there are some overriding rules also. Overriding rules. Yeah. So you can see when we get more and more details, there are more and more rules. Here, the hard part is there are many rules. So we need to memorize those rules. Yeah. So we need to collect some experience to get all those, get familiar with all those rules. All right, so let me stop here. Yeah. So this mapping part is the foundation. Yeah. Later, we will grow, from this foundation part, then we'll go deeper and deeper. Yeah. All right, so let me finish here. Yeah.